Welcome to Module 8. In this module, we're going to focus on standardized work. I'll show you the schedule in a minute, but we're going to talk about a bunch of different things. I want you to understand the background of why I think standardized work is so important, why I think it's the most important tool in the Lean toolbox. So our objectives, though, we're going to talk about describing the value of standardized work for an organization, how you're going to use it to analyze a process, how you're going to use it to evaluate the performance of a process. We want you to be able to identify and solve problems in a particular process using this methodology. Evaluate various ways to improve the process, so we'll talk about some what-if stuff. How to create and use standardized work to build employee skills, which is, to me, the foundational, most important function. And then finally, we want to be able to use it to build a foundation on which we can teach other people how to do a particular set of tasks. The way we're going to go through this is I've got each one of these will probably end up with its own video. We'll have the philosophy behind standardized work. We'll have the 5 goals of standardized work, how to create a lean standardized work system, and then how to create work balance. Then we'll get into implementing and sustaining standardized work. So there's the creating piece, and then implementing and sustaining using different worksheets. Then we want to talk about improving human performance primarily through training within industry. And that includes job relations, job methods, and job instruction. And then we'll do a quick review, and off you go. So with the philosophy behind standardized work, I want to remind you first that we got 3 key desired outcomes for any lean organization. One is higher productivity, where we do things faster, better, and easier. We want higher profitability, where we do things cheaper with fewer wasted resources and make us more competitive. And then we want to be higher professionalism. We want higher professionalism, which to me means more employee engagement, a greater workplace that attracts better talent, less turnover, less absenteeism, and just a great place to work. That's what we're after. Standardized work can help us get all of these. A couple of foundational concepts. Number one, everybody in the organization should use the very best method for every job that there is to do. So sometimes we have to find that best method, sometimes we create that best method. Our purpose, our underlying purpose again, is to build confidence and skills through repetition of proper performance. We want to be able to expose problems in those processes, in those structures, and in the skills that we're trying to develop. And finally, this is not just to document how we do the work. We want to use standardized work to change the way people work. And this brings me to a key point. You're going to hear most people around the world talk about standard work, standard work, standard work. That's what most of the consultants talk about. But I learned at Toyota, and it's always been standardized work. And I make the distinction between standard work and standardized work to remind everybody that work requires us to do something. So standardize is a verb that requires us to do something to standardize the work so that it's better, so that it's more balanced, so that it's more productive, so that it's more satisfying for the team members. So I'm a big fan of standardized work, but you'll hear a lot of folks refer to standard work, and they mean the same thing, but they probably have a different perspective, as you might expect. So in a continuous improvement environment, we require employees to have the discipline to follow those standard procedures, right? We don't want any variability. That's how we improve quality. And a lot of folks focus on that improved quality piece and more consistency and better reliability and all those great engineering concepts, but you don't get any of those unless you bring the people along. So enforcing the standardized work by ensuring that the job is performed the same way every time is important, which is where leadership and management of the processes come in. One, repetitious performance builds self-efficacy in the worker. That is the confidence they have in their ability to do the work that we're asking them to do. We want higher confidence because that compels people to try new things, to improve their own workspace, and to persist through obstacles. Repetitious performance by either that primary person or anybody else who steps into that work and has to follow that standardized work, that's going to reveal problems in the design of the work. If we're always supposed to be doing it the same way and people are doing it differently, it's probably because we haven't found something in the process. Now, to me, the greatest value in standardized work is actually in the freedom that it gives people. the freedom to solve problems, the freedom to find a better way, and the freedom to test that better way and then implement that better way is the new standard. You'll hear a lot of people fear standardized work because they think you're taking all of their individual creativity out of this. But what we're really doing is by standardizing the work and making it so everybody can do it the same, and we can get that repeat performance by doing it the same way every time, what that actually does is it frees up space cognitively, so I can now, instead of thinking about every decision I have to make in performing the standardized work, now I know things are just going to flow, and we've designed the whole workstation like that. Now I can focus on, how should we be doing this? How can we do this better? That's the benefit of standardized work. It frees creativity and releases that cognitive energy. You also get a bonus benefit. So here, um, I got locus of control in bold on this, and that means that people have a stronger feeling that they have more control over their workplace. And as we go through the development process of standardized work, you'll see that the whole idea is to get those operators to actually embrace the standard work and create that standardized work themselves and own that standardized work, so they will then improve that standardized work. So by not only allowing them, but teaching and encouraging them to improve those processes on their own, following the proper process that we've defined, that's going to allow leaders to enhance their trustworthiness. So we're hitting both the satisfaction block on the Leader Sites on the Leader Sites framework, but we're also hitting that dynamic stability piece because we're talking about trust in a work environment. When we launch standardized work, you got to understand that work has to be structured into work packages. So we might have to break things up a little bit. You can't have a 15-page document for standardized work. A lot of people get that confused too. Oh, we have SOPs, standard operating procedures. Standard operating procedures describe how something happens from start to finish. The standardized work is very focused on a particular task or a particular place. Work packages should be executed by multi-skilled work teams, and we should be developing these team members so that they can do multiple jobs, multiple work packages by those teams. And then the team owns that standardized work and they're responsible for improving it. And that's a key takeaway, even though that's behind my picture. A lean work package really flows from these 4 different perspectives. The first is the need to design the work for satisfaction. Now remember back to the satisfaction module, that requires meaningfulness, awareness, and responsibility. Meaningfulness, awareness, and responsibility. To get meaningfulness, the job has to be significant, it has to have some variety, and there has to be a strong sense of identity with the team of people doing that work. So if we hit those things, if we make the job significant because it requires an expert, if we make the job significant because we can show that operator exactly how it affects the customer, and if we design multiple steps, multiple functions within that work package, then people are going to get that variety. And because it requires a team to be able to do it, you're going to get that identity taken care of. It does push us toward a return to mastery. We talked about mastery in the craft production age, and now we're talking about it returning to mastery because it's important that individuals develop multiple skills. So we get that personal growth, we get that security that comes with being a valuable contributor to the company. We also want to embed systems thinking into this. So we're never just going to design in isolation. We have to look upstream, downstream, and see how this particular spot affects the entire system. And finally, we want that team to take ownership. And when people own something, they tend to take better care of it and tend to improve things as we go. This is the mystery though. I mean, how do you compel somebody to take ownership? And the only way to compel somebody to take ownership is for you to let go of your piece of that ownership. So how does the leader or the manager let go and let the team take over? Well, if you've built this structure in place, you as a leader, you've got nothing to fear, so you can let go. We've also got other structures in place to let you know that things are actually happening as they should. So we'll do some standardized work audits as the part of our normal Gemba walks. Lots of ways for you to let go and still retain a sense of control. If we apply the scientific method to this whole process implementation piece, in the pre-standardization phase, your cycle time might be all over the place. High variability, you never can predict what it's actually going to do. But after we adopt standardized work, notice it's not going to fix everything. So we're going to reduce the cycle time, but we're still going to have a good bit of variability until people's skill improves, and then we improve the standardized work. So we're going to get a little bit flatter line, a little bit less variability, and finally, as we go through and we revise it over and over and over and over again, as people get better and better and better, you'll see that line gets closer and closer to being a flat line. That reduces the variability, that improves the quality, and everybody benefits from that. Because we talk about the importance of improving the work, and because the standardized work is going to give us a baseline for that, we want people to change it. But in a lot of places I go, we haven't thought about what's the right process, what's the right procedure, what's the right technique we're going to use to actually improve the standardized work. So one of the first things that you need to think through is what's the standardized work for changing the standardized work. And it can be as simple as employing the C4 process, which is what I recommend. When somebody has an idea to improve it, they write that C4 card, and then the process continues to flow. Next up, we'll pick up with the 5 goals of standardized work.